As some of you may know, the last few weeks have been exceptional and difficult, and I'd like to dedicate today's Cosmic Vespers to my son's memory. He died unexpectedly on the day before my 75th birthday. Uh, and I'd like to share with you um, the obituary we prepared for him just uh, just to just to be in Cosmic Vespers with you all, with his memory and his radiance. Um, Braden passed away on November 18th. He was born in Elmira on September 2nd to Penny and Steve. He was loved deeply by family, friends, and a wide network of people who benefited from his skills and generosity. Braden measured success in love. The absolute center of his life were his children, Braden Jr. and Melody, and the three of them became a warm core, generating the light and heat that comes with single parenting. He steadfastly, and this underscore steadfastly, resisted the structures of traditional education and employment. He learned by watching and doing, missteps and grace. Braden worked with his hands, but led with his heart. Clients came to know his skill and his soul. He listened well, spoke plainly, and was generous with mercy and patience. He had a quirky sense of humor, and only those who listened carefully got his jokes. He binged old TV series, faithfully fed his raccoon family, loved all things Makita, and was dubbed a Motor Storm legend by the video club members. Braden wrote in August to a friend, "My life is pretty good, and I keep it pretty simple." He told family recently he didn't know what his legacy would be. His legacy is love. So that is my son. And I'm so grateful that I got to be his mom. I wouldn't have always said that because he was not an easy boy. But he became an amazing man. Um, so then I had a health crisis 4 days, 5 days after his death. And that was a biggie, a bigger one than the one I had in the fall. So I'm repairing and I'm healing. And I've been so lovingly supported by so many. And I want to thank everyone who's held me in their thoughts and our family. And we're making our way. So before we proceed, I'm going to read something from Wendell Berry, a poet who speaks like the universe. It's called The Loved Ones. The loved ones we call the dead depart from us and for a while are absent. And then, as if called back by our love, they come near us again. They enter our dreams. We feel they have been near us when we have not thought of them. They are simply here, simply waiting while we are distracted among our obligations. At last, it comes to us. They live now in the permanent world. We are the absent ones. So, for all of you, I mean, as we come to the end of this calendar year, it's a time for remembering our love and the ones that have gone on. And if you have someone you'd like to honor or acknowledge, please feel free to use the chat to bring their name forward as we go on with Cosmic Vespers and our um, and And on to noetic portals. And let me just add this. When I used to teach about the four paths, and I'd be at, state worker conventions and things talking about the four paths, and I'd get to the Via Negativa, and there was a sensibility that came into the room that was like no other when people listed what they were grieving for. And what I realized then, and it's even more true now, is that what I'm calling a noetic portal, and we'll say more about that, but it's a portal to all that is beyond human construct, beyond our personal day to day, but really the universe in its entirety, grief and loss, and at that place of cataclysm and transmutation is for sure a noetic portal. So thank you for allowing me the space to bring my son into the field, and I know he watches over us. All right, Bob.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Penny, and thank you for sharing Braden with us. So this is the time for what Penny refers to as my tech talk. The only thing we ask is that you remain muted unless it's time for questions or conversations, at which time we ask that you find on your Zoom toolbar the raise hand function. You may see that right on the toolbar, or you may have to look for something called more, and you should find it under there. And that puts you in queue and keeps you so we can get to everybody in sequence. Penny has also, again, offered me the opportunity to provide some reflections that hopefully would be germane to our topic today. And I have to confess, I have I've had a decent background and education. I've had quite a bit of science in my education, and I think that I tend to keep up with things. But sometimes new terminology, new ways of using terminology, take a bit for me to kind of get my head around. And one of those, the topic that has come up in conversations, and we'll hear more about it this afternoon, um, is the reference to fields. And I found myself struggling with that because it felt kind of wishy-washy and it felt like it could mean a lot of things, and I was trying to pin it down. And so we recently have started talking about a book, I think Penny's probably going to refer to it, fairly a new book called Space is Not Empty by Alan Briskin and Mary V. Galinas, I'm going to guess that's pronounced. And it just came in from the bookstore. So I've only started it, but I found some words that I found very helpful in getting my head around this topic. So I wanted to share this with you. Because the question is, what are fields anyway? What are we talking about? And so I found this very helpful. At the most fundamental, if you're going down to ground zero, fields are spaces in which interactions take place. And that can be a wide spectrum. So he refers to a meadow, a playing ground for sports, an academic discipline, um, but spaces in which interactions take place. And he then goes on to say the metaphor and reality of fields have found their way into disciplines that span physics, biology, social psychology, neuroscience, metaphysics, philosophy, sociology. So there's a lot of range to work with and to use the concept. We use field to describe a space or territory in which a network of interactive forces, both visible and invisible, are radiating from sources inside and around us. Fields influence how we feel, think, behave, And then what jumped out as a kind of a punchline for me. Understanding and working with fields, particularly engendering conditions that nurture life-giving fields, enables you, us, all of us, to collaborate more effectively with others to create a world that includes and works for everyone. And I found this angle on it especially intriguing, being a way in which we each individually can use the concept of fields to be more effective in the work that many, many, many of those of us on this call are trying to do. So I'll leave you with that. The book, again, is Space is Not Empty. I'll put the title in the chat. Thanks, Benny. And I think now Marianne has some words and opening for us. Here we go.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Bob. So, most of you know that I'm a labyrinth walk facilitator, and in labyrinths we talk about the field and the path. That's terminology we use with labyrinths. And with labyrinths, we we can turn off that busy mind and we can become attuned with our creative mind, our intuition. But we can also walk, and we do that with the Labyrinth Activist Network. We can walk as a group with a specific intention. And because of this field, we have a personal field, but we have a social field. You've walked into a room and you felt the energy in a room, I'm sure. And we have the noetic field that Penny's going to say more about. But it's the noetic field that allows us to send healing, to send love, to send energy to people on the other side of the world, to people who are sick, to people who are fighting wars, to people who are in distress because of whatever. So we're going to have a little exercise now where we put ourselves, our personal field, into coherence. And we're going to do that with information, or at least I'm inviting you to do that with me. It comes from the Heart Math Institute, excuse me, in Denver. Because we now talk about three brains. This one and the heart brain is like one word, no hyphens or anything. And then the gut brain, we have three brains. And the heart brain communicates, it actually sends more information to the head brain than vice versa through the vagus nerve system, which I think is pretty interesting. So we're going to try to just take a minute, and we do this in so many meetings. We just take a breath, we put our feet on the ground, and we might close our eyes, we breathe. There's a little extra step where we focus our brain. So we're going to be using our heart, but our brain also. We're embodying this, I hope. So I invite you to put your feet on the ground and get comfortable. And we're going to shift the focus. You might want to close your eyes to the area of the heart. And for some people, if you put your hand, one hand or both hands on your heart, it makes it easier to think about the heart. And I know the organ is over here on the right, like when you do the left, when you do a Pledge of Allegiance. But energetically, your heart chakra is right in the middle. So it's okay to do this right in the middle. And breathe through your heart. And what I mean is, imagine that you're breathing in, right into your heart. And it's not too hard to do this because their lungs are right there. And breathe out through your heart. And find your natural rhythm. With any luck, your breath will deepen a little bit because most of us breathe way too shallowly. And you might feel your heart rate, your breath rate, slow down a little bit. And then we're going to try to activate a positive feeling, and that can be love, it can be gratitude, it can be joy, appreciation, any positive feeling. Focus on positive thoughts. It might be a person, it might be a place, it might be a pet. Try to embody this. Bring this feeling into your whole body. As we sustain this feeling, we will keep that connection between the heart and the brain. And it would be at this time, before walking a labyrinth, that we would state our intention and hold that intention to release it when we get to the center. So this has physiological benefits for ourselves right now. It can increase, just as walking a labyrinth can, intuition and creativity. They can allow cognitive and performance improvements within ourselves and create positive changes in hormone balance. We're definitely affecting our own personal field to the point where when energy comes from our heart, a beautiful torus, which is like a donut around us is made, and that torus can be very big, and that torus can touch other tori in the vicinity. So we really do touch other people. We connect to one another. And each time we focus, center, and use this heart-brain coherence, this technique, we're contributing positive energy to the big field, the noetic field, not just our personal field and not just our social field. So we're helping ourselves and those around us. So, Penny, I can go on, but is that enough?
That's great.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Mm-hmm.
Well, in my work with Meg Wheatley last year, well, this year yet, we were looking at fields and trying to just kind of stumble our way to a definition of what is a field and how do you achieve it and how do you create resonance? What happens if there's dissonance? And what surprised me very much was I kept thinking about the creation spirituality communities online that I have been doing for many, many years with Gail Ransom, some with Bob, Marianne. I mean, 7 or 8 now. And there is a field that when I would talk about it to this group, this small group I was in, I was just saying, well, we're there. We somehow, and so what were the elements of what makes a community like this cohere? And one of the conclusions I came to is I think we're very comfortable with the idea that we live into mystery, that we don't show up with answers, we show up with questions and generally open hearts and looking for wisdom, seeking. So I just want to say that that's probably why I've been here all these years, and why it might be hard to get rid of me is I love being in this field with all these seekers and friends. Now, just a little bit about noesis and its connection, because some of you may already be putting this together. Brian Swim is working a lot with trying to understand the noosphere, how it's happening, how it is already happening. It's been happening as we've been evolving, but it's the same root word. And so noesis was originally distinguished from rational or scientific thinking. It involves intuitive understanding, direct knowing, inner wisdom, and an implicit comprehension not limited by traditional concepts of time and space. It's the act of experiencing the new us. It operates in nonlinear fashion, revealed in our intuition synchronicities, precognitive dreams, and different forms of where I don't know how I knew, I just knew. So those synergies that are beyond the personal and beyond the social. And coming from this perspective, and if you're lucky enough to pick up that book, which I do recommend, I think it's a brave new way to look at life in a what feels pretty accurate to me. And I was so grateful that even though we're talking about one unified field, the universe is one giant field, this distinction between how we show up on the personal level, how we show up on the social level in any grouping you can imagine, still remains this third level, the noetic field. And this stream of thinking comes out of when I think it was Alan Sherman, not Alan Sherman, but one of the astronauts was there looking back at Earth and saw it as a whole. And it was all of a sudden, he was seeing the picture of one of the ways that we could never have imagined considering until we had that moment. And so from that, noesis and the noetic science people came along. And it's called the overview effect. So while we have portals on the social level, I was thinking about, think of your favorite mystic or poet. Well, they're drawing on that noesis if they're impacting you this way. Or maybe you're out somewhere breathtakingly beautiful and you take it all in that way that your body just knows that this is a mystical moment. It's a moment beyond time. That's when we're talking the noetic field. When we're talking about our particular faith and its codes and its guides, that is more on the social level. Differences between races and religions and ways of being, that's all social. And that's where a lot of us get pretty gummed up in our dealings. And so my gratitude toward Alan Briskin in this case for helping us to have a language that says, yes, I'm a human and I have certain predilections, but I'm also of the noetic field. And so it's a way of seeing, remembering that it's all one unified field, but how much simpler it is to talk about it when you break it into the personal shows up at a meeting and they've got indigestion and then they're sitting with somebody whose politics is different. And so then there's a social discord, and then there's still the noetic field. And there are tools in this book to help make bridging these differences, these social differences, so that you can get to the noetic, which, as Marianne mentioned, is the field where our juices start to flow together, and we're really beginning to imagine possibility, because we've left that tier of the personal and the social, and we're cohering our hearts together, or our heart minds together, in a new way. So I hope that's helpful. And if there's a specific question or something that anyone would want to ask, please ask it. And if not, we'll go on to our own experiences of what I'm calling noetic portals. And noetic portals was going to be the topic today, but then I stumble on the fact that it's this giant supermoon tonight. And if we can get outside, go be with the moon. And that led me to being this suburban kid who was headed to Cape Cod for the first time as a 21-year-old or something. And my son was with me. And we were going to Martha's Vineyard, and we got on the ferry, and by George, it was a full moon on the ocean going from the mainland to Martha's Vineyard. And my jaw dropped. I was young. I hadn't considered the moon very much. And there was this incredible magic. And so we all, over the years, of course, we learn our ways with the full moon and the new moon. But it was a noetic portal for me, that here at 75, I'm still remembering that moment as if it was yesterday. So maybe Marianne, you want to share just what you were sharing about the different ways you can work with the moon in this
Sure.
regard related to spirituality.
Yes, love to. Love to. I'm a city kid, right? And so at some point in my early 40s, I thought, I really need to be more in tune with nature, right? So I started trying to pay attention to the moon at that point. We're talking 30 years ago, right? But that was the same time when I went to China to teach, and I had too much time on my hands. And some of you may have heard this story already. That's when I devised my system of praying with the moon. Other people had been doing it, but I didn't know about it. Where I wanted to plant my intention on the new moon, because my grandpa was a farmer, my mom's dad. And Mom always told me when I didn't want to get my hair cut, we'll do it on the new moon and it'll grow real fast, because Grandpa used to plant seeds on the new moon, so they grew real fast. So I did that, but I started also okay, then I have to start paying attention to what has changed by the full moon. Because if my intention, there are some long-term intentions that take a long time, but if something hasn't happened with my intention, then either I need to step it up, or I need to adjust my intention, or something, I need to attend to it. Well, then out here now, we do labyrinth walks by the moon. And in the summer with a full moon, it's delightful, except of course in the summer the moon comes up later, and half the time our walk is over and we see the moon when we're driving home, right? Which is a riot. But anyway, I started investigating planting by the moon, which isn't exactly Farmer's Almanac. And I learned something kind of interesting. The new moon is a good time to plant above ground crops. And I believe there's a
Mary Ann, you're frozen.
Oh, it looks like she got knocked off.
Okay. Well, we'll have her come back when
Oh no,
she
she's
I'm
on.
here. What happened? We've got. I'm almost finished, by the way. But we're expecting snow tonight, and that means there are lots of clouds in the mountains. So that's what happened. I'm sure of it. I'll try to go faster. A new moon. Plant the above ground crops. Full moon, because it draws water, it's good for the root crops below ground. So I think today we can plant those intentions that we really want to take root. We really want them to take root within us or for other people. So that's what I know about moons.
Well, and now in the spirit of the field, um, we in we take time. We've got a good amount of time left, and this is the storytelling part, where a noetic portal, as you interpret that word, um, and in hearing other stories, it's like it helps us make connection. Like, I hadn't thought about grief as a noetic portal, but I know it is. Um, and I would imagine that's not even a hard sell to our field. Um, but as others describe their no experience of a noetic field or a time with the moon, either of these stories will be rich for the field. So just be aware that depending on the number of people that have a story to tell, that we want to make sure we can get to all of them before 4. So we'll sit in silence and let the stories bubble up inside you. And then when you're ready, just put your hand up, and Bob will
Yeah,
put an order to it. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Please do use the raise hand function so I can, because I don't see everybody at once. Thanks.
Okay. Wait, we do have a big question here from Ellen. We live in one interconnected reality of living fields. Perhaps someone can help me. I'm finding it hard to connect the reality of noetics, moon portals, with the reality of shattered babies, mothers whose arms are amputated. I'm speaking of Gaza, but it could be a lot of places. Do I have to ignore suffering to be in the field? Thanks. Well, that's a profound, deep question, and one of the things that the field is about, because at this point, we can offer an intention for Gaza or those places where suffering is so profound. But but it's not the field related to the question, and yet it is part of our field. And one of the most profound teachers I've worked with in the universe story is turn nothing away. So if we were all sitting around a campfire together and this suffering were to come up, it'd be that's where our energy might go until it feels as complete as it can feel. And how complete can it be? It is part of the Buddha's 4 truths that there is suffering. So I honor that question, Ellen, and I think it's a worthy question. And if you if there were a via negativa field under conversation right now, that's where we may go. But right now it's just getting an awareness of a different way to organize how life is construed. It's not to separate from the suffering. We know there's suffering, and there's profound suffering, and it is a time that this suffering will not diminish, not for a long, maybe ever. So that is a holding for another time. But I honor this question.
I thank you very much. I can't find the hand thing. That's why I'm speaking. But just to ask you, I'm not going to continue on this because I hear you. But could there be a time in the future that this would happen? What you suggested on a different occasion? Because I'd be interested in following that and learning more.
Okay. One of the ways we tap on that a little more is when in the community of practice group that works with Joanna Macy's work. And so that's at the end of the month. So it would be the week before New Year's, that we could go there, but maybe, well, I don't know, the Sunday worship people, or maybe there's an empty bowl ceremony that wants to happen among us, where this is exactly where we bring our grief, where we bring what burns our eyes. So let's just hold it as a question. There are some people in this circle who might take this further. Thanks, Ellen.
Yes, unmute yourself and go ahead. You're muted, Em.
Okay. There. Am I still?
Nope, you're good.
Good. I want to tell a short story about how speaking the language of the field first came into my life a number of years ago, and also just say a little bit about how my awareness of relationally being in fields with relationships that are maybe far flung. Like it deepened the field deepened my pondering relational fields helped me to grapple with feeling in communion with loved ones who have passed. It's helped me to understand the idea, I think Marianne mentioned it, of the power of remote prayer, being able to hold suffering of others at great distance and yet deeply feel connection. And to be on the other end of that, I have gone through a few things in recent years where I've known that my brother's prayer circle was praying for me, or that other people were holding me, and being able to conjure the sense of fieldness in relationship to being, and I won't even go into nature in this conversation. It deepens for me presence if I practice an understanding of fields. I'm just going to quickly tell this short story. It was in my spiritual direction program, which was very low residency. We came together for a week, 4 times a year, and then we were on Zoom the rest of the time. And I think it was actually my first experience of spending a lot of time with people on Zoom. And in our first week together, it was a group of 20 people, as we were forming, the leaders introduced that we were creating a field of presence that would be with us through our 2 years together. And in the midst of that first week, someone in the kitchen, one of the helpers for the week, became ill. And this illness got spread around. Several of us caught what was being spread and got very ill and missed out on a couple of days of being in the group. This was midway into the time together. And we were each, for those couple of days, in our own rooms, really suffering with this GI thing that was pulling us out of each other's presence. And people would drop by and bring us some food or say some nice words. But when we eventually came back to the group, each of us reported how much, even though we were apart, we very much felt apart and present to and in the presence of the group. And so since that time, whenever this conversations about fields come up, it brings a deep smile to me because of having had this time where we were really practicing feeling the presence of field in our individual and collective presence to each other. Thanks for listening to that.
Thank you, Em. Gail, unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just been writing about compassion and how bad times or difficult things create and grow the compassion in us as a response. It's a human response is to respond to suffering and to respond to others that are in some kind of trouble. It's part of the way the universe works, as far as cataclysm, Brian Swim talks about, or see this deconstruction, construction. 250 years for a country of construction. Now this very quick deconstruction happening, and maybe a very quick counterbalance to that. But then there'll be another counterbalance, I know, after this, which will be we will recreate something more aligned with the values that have been rising up through this experience. So, I mean, it's the path too of the four paths of creation, spirituality, the suffering, the compassion. And we obviously are not there yet because this is still happening in the world and it's happening in our country under our noses. But so we aren't there yet. But it is our human nature is to care for each other, and the more we respond to that, then the faster and fuller it will become.
Very good. Thank you, Gail.
Thanks. Well, and Gail raises an interesting thing because she's actually talking about the social field in this country, and yet the way through it is to have this capacity to imagine other ways of doing it. And that's when we draw from the noetic field. So it's, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of examples of things deconstructing. And as Joanna Macy would say, we have business as usual going on, we have the great turning going on, and we have the great unraveling going on, all at the same time. All, again, three different fields actually, but only one of them is drawing on the noetic field actively. Now, Brian would say without judgment that the noetic, the noosphere, is being created by all of these gumming together, if you will. But I think our liberation as a heart and mind is to keep in mind that we can access through these portals, and again, it's through experiences that give us a taste of it, and see what's possible. And I see John's got his hand up. John.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you. Let me lower my hand. I don't know if this fits. It's a story, but years ago, but I don't know if it fits necessarily in this. You have to help me, discern that. But Years ago, I was sitting up in the wilderness, Rolling Ridge, in near Harper's Ferry in West Virginia, and it was I have I play these little flutes, for my hand therapy because I have hands are surgery done on them, so I just kind of play with the flute and I do it for my own private meditation and prayer life. And I was out in the woods, sitting on a stump, all by myself and just meditating, and then I began to play the flute. And it made a bunch of horrible noises and squeaking and everything. I had to play, practice with it, but I did the best I could. And at the end of that, of that time frame, about 15, 20 minutes of just silence and meditation and playing the flute, it was getting close to sunrise. I was facing east. My back was to the west, and the sun hadn't come up quite yet. I was on the west side of the mountain ridge, and something possessed me to take my flute and just lift it up high in a state of worship, a position of worship, and saying, "This is my gift to you this morning, this day." And as soon as I said that, I heard this huge roaring from behind me, and it sounded like much like maybe a freight train right next to you going by, really loud. And immediately after I began to hear this loud noise, it was a rush of the wind, and all of a sudden, all the trees bent to the east. And, scientifically, we know what that was, right? I mean, the sun's coming up, you got heat transfer, cold air coming down, warm air going up, wind happens. But it happened at that very moment, okay, that I did that. So either I was in tune with something or not, or that was some kind of mystical experience. But that seems to me a story of my encounter with some kind of field. Not maybe so much a field of noetic, but maybe a field of heart energy. I don't know. I'm complete.
John, it sounds like both. It's,
Oh, yes.
that you followed that intuition and that led to everything that was subsequent. And now you can share that story and amplify it among us. Yeah, that's the noetic.
Wow. That's an amazing story, John. Amazing.
Patty, have you got anything? You're just sitting right there.
Well, I do. I never really got much out of looking at the moon, okay? Just I'm a sun person, okay? I'm Sicilian by birth, so, Anyway, we studied Marianne Abrams and I can't remember, Joel Primack, about the universe. And maybe it was also Brian, but they talked about the effect of the moon on Earth and how many things that happen related to Marianne's story. How many things that we take for granted as life affirming and so forth are all dependent on the moon and the influence of the moon. I was raised in the summers on the shores of Jamaica Bay, and the tide was the way I could tell time. I could tell the tide before I could read a clock, probably. So, and the tides are all a product of the moon. So much of life happens just because she's there. And of course, it was some huge cataclysm. I just saw a video recently of that. They think that the moon was a part of Earth and was just kind of like chunked off, whatever. And it's one reason the specific position and composition of the moon is one reason why life is possible on this planet and probably very unlikely someplace else, because the exact relationship is not there. So I look at the moon ever since I saw that, realized that connection. I look at the moon differently. And the moon was shining in the windows last night, and I'm sure she's going to be shining in again tonight. Looks like there's a light on outside. That's how bright the moon was last night. Thank you for bringing it up, Penny.
Well, and one of the stories that uh, once I learned it, I was living in a house where there were multiple people. I mean, it was back in the 70s. And I didn't know this until that moment, that when women are living close in proximity, that their menses will line up in either a new moon cycle or a full moon cycle. And, I was in a position where we could talk about it, and lo and behold, it happened. I mean, think how intimate that connection is with the moon, and how sensitive that must make our bodies to create that synchronicity with such a seemingly distant place. We have time for one more story. If any, please don't hold these stories back. I mean, I think they're nourishment for our soul. Does anybody have one story from their? I mean, I have a number of surprising little, like my son moved here from around my son from Arizona, not under the happiest of circumstances, and we were kind of desperate to find him a place to live. And so we've been looking for houses and looking for houses, and and when it happens to you, it's happening to you. I had sheets of houses with different descriptions, each on one page, so there would be 5 houses. And I was waiting for there was a space in my mind. I could have been in worry mode, but it wasn't. It was sort of that space between worry and overthinking, or problem solving. And I looked down at the sheet, and this one house started to shimmer on the page. Just the image started to have ripples. That house we looked at the next day. We liked it. And it was a time when houses were very competitive, and where people were overbidding, and we overbid by $500, and that became my son's house. And how did that happen? That's when we put to rest that mind of ours that is so rich and full and busy, and open the spaciousness to listen. Different information comes through, and that to me was a noetic portal. So anybody else got one more story before I turn it over to Gail? All right.
We do.
Oh, we do? Oh,
Yes.
Carolyn.
Well, it's not really a story, but since you're getting ready to move things along, I mean, these fields have been around forever, and the mystics have always been, I think, aware of them. But this is at a time when I was working today, I couldn't attend, so I don't know how much you all have talked about Lynn McTaggart, but she has a lot about the field. The Power of 8, I'm in a group of 8 women, and that's intentionally, we try intentionally to do with things with fields. But she also has a book, The Field, The Quest for the Secret Force of the Universe. And there's another, that's Lynn McTaggart, The Power of 8, creating fields by aligning with 7 other people and intentionally trying to change things. And another book on fields, The Physics of Consciousness. This is a good one by Yvonne Antic. So anyway, they're not stories, but I just wanted to throw out a couple of, this is on the quantum field, minerals, plants, animals, and human souls. So I just wanted to bring those up to you. And I'll put it in the chat in case you're interested. We may
Thanks,
have discussed them
Carolyn. Yeah,
before. I don't know.
not those two.
Nope.
Not those two. We do have a recording of Sarmeet Kanwal, who came in June and spoke about the physics of fields. And if you can go to the YouTube and type in creation spirituality communities and type in Sarmeet and Sarbmeet, and you'll get what Sarmeet offered to us, and then kind of sent me down this direction. So thank you all for being with us today. We'll be back in January, February, March, April. April or May. We'll be back. And next month is Global Kinship. So thank you. And Gail.
Did you need to say anything, Gail, before we start?
Just one thing or two. Thank you, Bob, for putting this up. I've been looking for a video of the moon slowly moving, and I found one. Finally, I hope. So, somebody's tapping on their keys really fast there, and I wonder if you can.
Yeah, I'm trying to find them to cut the.
If you wonder if you could stop, because we're going to want to have the sound for this experience.
I haven't figured out who that is.
Okay, well, it stopped, so somebody figured out who it was. So first, I was sitting here thinking about that visual, and I looked up, and I have an 6 foot by 4 foot window here, and it was still light then. I'm in Boston, so Boston is like the farthest east and the first to go dark in a way, at least from our eastern point. So anyway, it's gone now. But I thought, so why am I looking for a picture for the screen when we've got the moon right outside there? And so I invite you, if you are able, to just turn off your light and look at the moon. Because I'm leading, I brought my little lamp. So look out there and see. If you don't see the moon, that's where the moon goes anyway. I mean, that's its path, is someplace in that sky. So
The
I
moon.
invite you to do that, or watch what Bob has put up on the screen for us. But I'm going to sing a chant. Does somebody want to say something?
Our moon is orange tonight on the East Coast. There it is. It's gorgeous.
Where do you live on the East Coast?
Near Maryland, Washington, D.C.
Beautiful.
There it is, orange.
So I'm just going to sing a song from the Seneca, which is a chant. It's from the Seneca natives, and Penny's assured me that we have been given permission to use and deepen ourselves with the music of the American indigenous peoples. So we will sing the Seneca song called Nisa, 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 which is about the grandmother moon. This is the grandmother moon.
The moon, yeah.
And I might just move into another children's song in the middle of that, because I like tapping back into our past. If this is your past, it certainly isn't my past, this song. And I like how that brings in more ages of population at the same time. And you liked it when I did that with the Woody Guthrie song, so Inch by Inch. So we're going to try it again this time. So here we go, our homage to the moon. Nisa, 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 Gaiweo, Gaiweo, Nisa, 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 Gaiweo, Gaiweo. Nisa, 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 Gai Wei O. Nisa, 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 Gai Wei O. Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery shoon, won't you please shine down on me? Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery moon, hiding behind that tree. All relations here are begging you, turn around so that we can be amazed by you. Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery moon, won't you please shine down on me? Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery moon, won't you please shine down on me? Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery moon, hiding behind that tree. All relations here are begging you, turn around so we can be amazed by you. Oh, Mr. Moon, Moon, bright and silvery moon, won't you please shine down on, please shine down on, please shine down on me.
Thank you all. Thank you, Gail.
Mm.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mary. Thank you
Till we
all.
meet
Thanks,
again.
all.
Blessings.
Until next time.
Mhm.